talking toilets on the programme now, and with a very good reason, because here on BBC Radio Lancashire, we've featured the campaign of a local man who's trying to improve changing place facilities for disabled people at motorway service stations. Zack Kerr is from Accrington. He uses a wheelchair, and he started a petition after a journey to South Wales where he was unable to find a suitable place to change. The Department of Transport has committed £2 million of funding for the campaign. Now, Marion Messmer is the Changing Places Development Officer for Muscular Dystrophy UK, and she explains what Changing Places are.
A Changing Places toilet is a large accessible toilet that has some specialist equipment. So most importantly, it's got a hoist and an adult-sized changing bench, and that allows people who need assistance when going to the toilet to transfer to the loo or to have someone change them. And I think that already says quite a bit about why these toilets are so important, because for people who need this additional support in order to go to the toilet, they just can't access normal toilets. And if there are no Changing Places toilets, that means that they are quite isolated and that they often face the choice of either not going out or restricting their day if they can't access Changing Places toilets. The investment by the Department of Transport is really welcome, because Zack Kerr and other campaigners have been working so hard on getting Changing Places toilets into motorway service stations, because it's often easier for people who need wheelchairs to travel by car. And then if you can't have Changing Places toilets at motorway service stations, that really restricts where they can go. So with the £2 million investment, that means that we can really increase the reach of Changing Places toilets, and we should be able to get at least 50 into toilets in England, or perhaps even more.
As Marion Messmer from the Muscular Dystrophy UK, forgive me, and she is head of Changing Places. She's the Changing Places Development Officer, rather. Well, she mentioned Zack Kerr there. Now, he's an amazing young man who, as you'll hear in this interview, has no problem in telling us what his issues are. He uses a computer to communicate, and I spoke to him a little bit earlier.
I am amazed. Last August, when I started this campaign, I could never have believed it would grow so quickly and attract so much support. Over 130,000 people signed my online petition from all over the UK. When I met with Paul Maynard MP last November in Westminster, he talked about the task force which had been set up to create an accessibility action plan. But at that time it only referred to rail, bus, and airline transport.
Right.
So he was very interested in my campaign highlighting the lack of Changing Place toilets on the UK motorway network, especially in the north and northwest regions. I am so pleased that he took my concerns seriously, and that they have been addressed in the report that the Department of Transport made this week.
Tell us, what difference will this make to your life, Zack?
These facilities are nothing short of life-saving for me, and over 250,000 others like me in the UK. For those adults and children that are wheelchair users, or have other medical or complex health needs, Changing Places are the only toilet facilities we can safely use. I am double incontinent, which is not nice to talk about, but it's how it is. I cannot self-transfer, so I need to be hoisted onto an adult-sized changing bench for my parents or support workers to change me. Most of my life my mum has had to struggle to change me on disabled toilet floors, which are usually wet and dirty. Not only is this degrading, it's physically difficult. I am too big to lift now, so if it wasn't for Changing Places I would actually be housebound. Installing Changing Places toilets in all motorway service stations will open up so many opportunities. I will be able to get out and about with my friends and family, without ever having to worry about finding appropriate facilities on our journey.
This is a campaign you've done amazingly well. You've kind of got to this stage, Zack. Now, what are you doing next? I mean, you're not going to stop here, because that's not the way you work, is it?
There is still a huge need for Changing Places toilets elsewhere. I received a letter from Burnley Council last week confirming that they are going to install 2 in the town. We are lucky here in Accrington as we have 3. But many towns and cities have very few or none at all. There are lots of campaigners for changing places to be put in large supermarkets and shopping centers, which would be wonderful if we can get them. But I am very concerned about the lack of changing places facilities in our hospitals. I think this may be my next campaign.
He is going to keep on campaigning. That was me talking with Zack, Kerr, who's from Accrington. I was talking to him a little bit earlier. And outside of those kind of answers, he communicates with like a little tablet, and he can sort of press things for words and letters. So it takes him a little bit of time to communicate. So we couldn't really put on air the stuff that I talked to him about in addition to that, which was whether or not he was watching Love Island, to be honest. And he had some thoughts and views on that, but we won't bring you those today. So Raymond Martin was listening to that interview, and he's from the British Toilet Association. Raymond, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sean. How are you?
All right, thanks. It's Zack who was talking about there. He's like no problem in saying, look, we don't like talking about this, but I'm doubly incontinent. And that's a problem sometimes, isn't it? We don't like talking about the toilety things in life.
No, we don't. And but it's a natural function. We all, as human beings, we have to eat, sleep, breathe, drink, and go to the toilet. And it's just a natural function that we all have to do, sometimes 5 or 6 times across the day. And for people who have severe disabilities or severe accessibility issues, maybe even medical problems, and lots of other people around the country, older people and young people as well, going to the toilet can be an absolute ordeal, because finding a toilet is a very difficult thing in these days and times. But finding a toilet with proper facilities, it's good, clean, ready for use, in many cases is nigh on impossible.
I wonder why it's taken so long, to kind of get to this point. I know, people like organisations like yourself have been talking about this, but it is remarkable that adult disabled people basically have just not had a toilet that they can be changed in, haven't they?
Well,
for years.
That the government doesn't take the responsibility at this point in time. They say they have no responsibility for provision of toilets and toilet facilities, whatever, and they put it straight over to local authorities. But the local authorities say, well, we don't actually have it. There's no legislation in place. There's no regulation, and the government doesn't give us any financial support to provide toilets. So actually, it's not our job. So we go back to government again. They say, well, we don't see where it fits. But toilets are about, Sean, they're about health and well-being. They're about social inclusion. They're about equality, and they're about public dignity and public decency. And what more could a government really have to do in this country but look after its people, the visitors, tourists, people with disabilities, infirmities, medical conditions? And really, why are we spending money on aircraft carriers and high-speed trains and 135 F-35 Stryker?
Listen,
we need to be spending this money on toilets, and this is fantastic. The department has obviously seen the light, and it's absolutely we're thrilled to bits.
It's a good thing. Sorry to cut across you, Raymond. It's a good thing the government's getting involved. I don't think anybody can argue with that understands this subject. But a point I made to Zack, which we didn't air because it was kind of quite a long chat I had with him, was how many refurbs of service stations have there been? And there are lots of these fast food outlets. The people I mean, all over. They've spent millions on their stores, and none of them have bothered to put in a facility just so that adults can be decent when they go to the toilet.
Yeah, a lot of the fast foods and the pub chains or whatever have got really good clean toilets, and we have to hold our hands up to a lot of those. But very few of them would have the likes of these changing places facilities available.
That's what I mean.
We're
Yeah.
starting to see them in football grounds.
Yeah.
We're now starting to see them in some of the supermarkets, that the Tesco's now, the bigger super chains, and it's only coming on. It's just been in the last 2 or 3 years since we became involved with this about 2 or 3 years ago, and there was literally 105, I think it was. We now have 1,105, so there's over 1,000 in the last 2 or 3 years. And it takes time to put these things in. You need additional space, you need additional funding, whatever, and you need the will of the person who's actually running the premises to make sure that the thing is kept in full working order. So things are changing, which is great.
Hey, brilliant. Raymond Martin from the British Toilet Association, thank you very much for talking to us this afternoon. And do you know what? When I came in this morning, I didn't think I was going to talk to the British Toilet Association. That's one off my wish list.
The county's radio station for sport.
BBC Radio Lancashire.